Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have heard Silly Boy by Britty yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt.
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. Jawn the Revelator, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I sit down for a chat with Matt Pond for a talk about collaborating on his new EP, Call and Response, with Alexa Rose. We talk about songwriting and making music videos, and we talk about so much more. And that, of course, is coming up in a minute here. But first, hola, my friends. Hope you all survived your Super Bowl polls. Man, what a boring game that was. Until it wasn't. Yo, Usher was on fire, her absolutely shredded, Alicia and Luda and will.i.am and Little John, they all showed up, and then Taylor's boyfriend got another ring, and Beyonce dropped 2 new songs. What a weekend. It's gonna take me a while to truly process all of this content. Jokes aside, shouts out to the Chiefs Kingdom for their victory. Though I do need to point out, the Eagles beat this team, okay? It just needed to be said. The Eagles beat this team, the Super Bowl champions. So, whatever. So, a little behind the scenes here, but a lot of times I have multiple episodes worth of conversations in a much smaller span of time. You know, sometimes I record multiple interviews even on the same day. And because of that, there are things that I talk about that find their way into multiple chats because they're on the top of my mind. You know, it's no secret that I've recently been trying to reconcile the effect that music streaming platforms have had on the music industry, for both good and for bad. And in these conversations, I find myself talking about the disposableness of music. How before streaming, if you bought an album, you would spend much more time with it because finances were limited and who knows when you'd be able to buy another record. And side tangent here, but one example of this and one of the most Sophie's Choice decisions I had to make as a young music fan was the day I needed to decide, Use Your Illusion 1 or Use Your Illusion 2. Well, I couldn't afford both on release. You know, I could only buy one of them. And so I bought Use Your Illusion 2, and it was weeks before I ever heard anything off of 1. And in retrospect, I think I made the right choice, but who knows? What is the sliding doors world where young Nate was exposed to the original lyrics to Don't Cry as opposed to the alternate that show up on 2? Maybe he hosts a podcast called Yo, That Jawn Sucks. Dark timelines indeed. You know, the concept of spending time with an album comes up again in today's conversation with Matt. And in talking about this for a while, I've come to realize that, well, I have an active role in this. I'm accountable. Just because all of this music is out there, well, that doesn't mean that I have to be the guy in the distracted boyfriend meme looking over his shoulder at some new album when I have a beautiful album right there holding my hand. I just have to show some restraint. You know, just because there's a seemingly bottomless cake of music in front of me, well, it doesn't mean that I have to eat more than one slice at a time. And so this year, I have made a conscious effort to start living with albums again, to spend time with something, regardless of what my first impression is. And I want to share with you 2 very simple ways I have been doing it, just in case you're interested in returning to a time when albums meant something. Are you ready? The first way you can do this, buy an album. I know, it sounds crazy. Pay for music? But Nate, we pay for Spotify or Apple or Tidal. I get it. It sounds crazy. But guys, buy music. If there's an artist you're interested in, see if they have a Bandcamp page. Go on there and buy a download of the album you want to listen to. Or if they have physical media for sale, pick it up. Not only will you be more likely to stay with the album longer than just clicking it in your streaming app, but you'll be directly supporting the artist in the process. You know, a good time to do this is on the first Friday of every month. Bandcamp does this thing where anything you buy from an artist's page on the first Friday, they waive their percentage that they take, and 100% of that money goes to the artist. It's a beautiful way to support creators. So give it a shot. Okay, that's one way. Here's another. Pick a new album and make it your car album. Remember when you used to put a CD in your car stereo and it would live there for like weeks or maybe even months? Do it again. It doesn't actually have to be physically in your player either. You know, pick an album that you want to experience, and for the next week or two, every time you're in the car, just let that one album play on your streaming app of choice. We're not changing the world here, folks. These are two very small changes that you can make to your listening habits to help you spend some more time with a record before clicking on to the next one. Make an effort to spend some time with music. You might unlock something you may have missed in this landscape where we have nearly every single song recorded at our fingertips. And you can hit me up if you want some album recommendations. You're allowed to do that. And you know how to hit me up, right? Best way to do it is to follow me on the socials at Yo That's My Jawn. You know, I say it all the time, but we're on them all. And if you want a one-stop shop to find links to all of the socials, the website, previous episodes of the podcast, etc., go ahead and visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com. And while you are there, sign on up for the mailing list. Get all of the updates delivered directly into your inbox. Do it! All right. On with the show. My guest today is a prolific singer-songwriter who got his start penning songs out of his loft in Philadelphia's Chinatown district. Through 13 albums and countless EPs, his songs have mapped the universal emotions of being alive onto the contours of his own stories through evocative lyrics and lush soundscapes. Having always embraced the spirit of collaboration, his recent project has teamed him up with singer-songwriter Alexa Rose, whose song Wild Peppermint, which makes reference to his song Snow Day, put her on his radar. That collaboration has birthed the beautiful 5-song EP Call and Response, and a tour that kicks off this Thursday, February 15th in Pittsburgh at Club Cafe. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show Matt Pond. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Matt Pond. Matt, thank you for joining me on Yo That's My Jawn.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm super excited to talk to you. I've been listening to, I got to preview Call and Response, and it is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm so excited to have this conversation.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited too.
So I always start these things, I always like to jump in the Wayback Machine and kind of start where it all started. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up.
I grew up in northern New Hampshire at first and then moved around New Hampshire a lot, but New Hampshire.
What type of music was like playing around the house? What was music like when you were a kid?
It was a lot of my mom listening to a lot of James Taylor and some Beatles, but we were kind of isolated, so there wasn't a lot of new music coming in. You really had to find things, and it wasn't just readily available.
Yeah, what was the kind of first thing that attracted you? Like, what was your did you always love music, or was it?
I always loved music. The turning point, and I've said this a few times, was I asked my mom to get me the Missing You single by John Waite when I was really young, and she got Tom Waite's Swordfish Trombones instead, and I was so pissed. But you didn't have a lot of cassettes when you were young, so I had to listen to this, and I was like, oh, what is this music? And I had to figure it out. So it was like one of the coolest mistakes.
Happy accidents, yeah. You bring up something that I've been talking to a lot of people about recently, because I got in this large conversation with, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show Switched on Pop.
I think so. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. They break down pop music and kind of talk about themes that have, kind of existed all through music, and just kind of take a scholarly approach as on why we like the songs we like. And I got into this conversation about streaming and how streaming has kind of changed the landscape, obviously, of music. But what you just mentioned, the concept of if you bought a cassette or a CD or something and you didn't like it, well, you were stuck listening to it until you could afford the next thing. And like, I miss that. I miss like that you used to be stuck with something and like you would give something more of a chance than you would now. Is just like, skip next one. You know what I mean?
Sure, totally. I mean, the how fast you can skip on a stream and how fast. I mean, I cherished my cassettes. Like there were not that many until I could start really like figuring out, oh, I can work and save my money and buy my own music, which is what I did. Um, you had like 20 cassettes and they were just like, in rotation. I mean, I would listen to them all day, like one thing. I would sometimes listen to one song. I mean, I still do that sometimes when I'm like, what is it about this song? So
Definitely. Yeah, I like the relationship with music, like and that isn't to say that like all streaming is bad or anything like that, but like just the longevity of a song just feels so fleeting anymore.
I mean, for me, the other thing is, and this isn't just a streaming bash, but I like the search, and now the search is done for you. So, like, you, but then again, I wouldn't be exposed to some of the things so easily back in the day. And in New Hampshire, I was dying for new music. I was dying for anything. So it's cool this way too.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's exactly what I kind of came to the conclusion of in my conversation with Charlie from Switched on Pop was just that like I'm not saying streaming's bad. It's just different. It's just a shift in how we kind of and trying to learn how to adapt to that. Especially as an old guy, I can't. It's new tech.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing music?
Not till late, not till, I was forced into lessons, hated them. I mean, I had piano teachers that would grab your hands and smash them into place and say no. And so I mean, I played French horn for a little while, and I loved that. But as a teenager playing French horn, it didn't seem that cool. And then, I don't know, I was like 18, and I was just, staying awkward. It didn't become unawkward, and I just started playing guitar because I had a lot of time alone, and I liked writing dumb songs. I can read music for other instruments. I have no idea what I'm doing on guitar. It's always like an adventure of like retuning. I mean, my my wife, shit,
I do the
my
same thing.
wife can't stand it. She's a musician. I just take her guitars and tune them wrong, and then she's like, what are you doing?" So it's just this kind of from the beginning, it's just been an exploration, and I keep it that way. I mean, that's a way of saying I don't like to learn more, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's I'm a guitar player myself, but I never like to really say that I'm a guitar player. I just play guitar because like I reached the point where I could like write my own songs and I could play songs out, and then I was like, I'm good enough. Like I don't need to solo. I don't I'm never going to be able to shred. I might be able to get some cool rhythmic stuff going on, but like yeah, that's as far as I needed it.
yes, I feel the same way. I mean, I think of myself as kind of not a singer or a guitar player, but just mostly a songwriter. That's how it seems in my head.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
about, you know.
Yeah, it tracks. That definitely tracks. So how did you end up in Philadelphia?
I had no other options or prospects or anything, nothing good was going on for me. And a friend was like, "Do you want to start playing music?" And with just like a suitcase and a bag of like a trash bag full of clothes, moved to Philadelphia and just kind of worked my way up through the scene and with people and just kind of and got brave enough to play on stage and play my own songs. And that's slow, long process.
Yeah, where can you remember the what venues were you
Oh gosh,
frequenting?
Khyber Pass. We play at Silk City, which now is doing shows again. When it was funny, I worked at the Tin Angel. It was an old like singer-songwriter place, but we would play there too. We played everywhere. It's kind of like, and we would play at these like kind of folky places, but then we open for hardcore bands, or like we were just kind of this always this in between band that would just kind of match up with anyone. It was fun that way. We didn't get stuck, just kind of speaking the same musical language all the time. We got to experience a lot of different things.
Yeah, that was I was in so when like around 98 and stuff like that, I was still in Western PA. I went to school in Western PA, but I came home around like 2000, 2002, and like this the scene around here at that time was like my favorite thing in the world. Like I started playing I was playing like I was a big Manny Young player, so I was at the
Oh,
Grape Street a lot, and but like that time period there was just a lot of really good like different diverse bands in this area, and I just always thought like and a lot that didn't ever kind of, I don't want to say amount to anything because they created brilliant music but just never really kind of broke.
totally, totally. Most of the bands did not break. I think that a little bit of that is like Philly's has this kind of chip on its shoulder sensibility, and everyone was accused of selling out back then, and internally the same with me. So it's kind of this, shoot yourself in the foot thing, which just sucks because it should have. And one of the reasons and I don't mean to shit on Philly. I love Philly.
No, it's
But I moved to New York because it felt like you could be a little bit more ambitious. And I wish that in that time, now there are so many amazing bands now in Philly. And there were then, like, I think there was this band Mara that was doing really well. And they were great, but they moved to New York too. I think it just felt a little bit, it was like Rocky syndrome. Like,
mhm.
I don't know. I love that town. That's where I wrote most of the music that I love the most. I lived in a loft in Chinatown for $900 a month, and it was 15,000 square feet, and just had crazy parties, and we would rehearse and drink massive amounts of coffee, and it was the most kind of band inclusive time that I had in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny because like it was kind of cutthroat, like it was like every man for themselves back then. And now the scene that's here now, like everybody is so supportive of each other, like it almost confuses me. But I think but I think the pandemic had a lot to do with that. And it's
I,
great.
I think that there's just a realization that it was less of a competition. It felt like, you know, I mean, everyone grew up in their high school, there was a battle of the bands, and that battle of the bands carried over until people realized it wasn't worth it anymore. So I just think it probably was the same everywhere. But it still was a scene and it was cool. And I miss those times of scenes because we would play around the country and see the scenes in every city back then. And now there are scenes, but it's not as like you had to go and to see to hear music, you had to go see it live. A lot of the time it wasn't on a phone or something. So it
Yeah.
was kind of cool in that sense.
Yeah. So you put the kind of you put the music out and you put the outfit together, and I have to there's this question that I've been dying to ask you is there seems to be a come home to going back under Matt Pond PA, which also seemed to be for a very short period of time something that you were trying to distance yourself from as a name.
I think
Um,
yeah, it's been hard I don't love saying my name and then the band name, and I get confused in that. And that's always been confusing, but it's kind of also how people know me. So we did an album with Bella Union and it felt different. And Simon Raymond's a cool guy, and we talked about it and we were like, let's just do something different. So we did that, and it was a band, and um, but it kind of, it confuses people and it even confuses me. And there are principles of what it's hard to say my name in the third
I
person, but
get it.
what Matt Pompier is to me is actually just a looser form of collaboration, but it's heavy on collaboration. It's like, so when I was kind of like, you know what? for the rest of time, what I've decided to do is be myself and be in the band that I started in. And so the way to kind of get back into that um, was to work with Alexa and kind of do something like outside and collaborative and to make the CP and then kind of just keep seeing how far we can take collaboration.
Yeah, I'm the perfect segue too. I'm glad you brought up Alexa Rose, who is absolutely phenomenal.
I know it's
Um,
great. I can't
uh,
believe he decided to do this with us. So, it's cool.
it's super incredible. How did that collaboration come about?
I heard this song. Uh, it's hard not to get down on yourself a little bit when you make music because I mean, I'm the worst critic of myself of anybody. And I've had critics. But it was just this kind of thing, this laser. Like I heard her song Wild Peppermint and I'm listening, and then all of a sudden I hear like she name drops Matt Pompier. And I just was like, it like still gives me the chills that someone would kind of like see you like that, like see you in a song. Uh, and there's nothing like it. There's like, I've done some cool stuff, but there was like a real sudden lightning bolt thrill to that. And, you know, I sat on it for a while and then I thought, maybe she'd want to sing on something of mine, or maybe we could work on something. And we talked and we got along and she didn't hate the songs I sent her. So, and she brought some songs back to life that I hadn't planned. Like I was like, what I always do when I work with people, unfortunately, is like, oh, like, I'll send one song and then I'll send like 100. And she wasn't overwhelmed. She's been cool. We're doing this tour. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the results are absolutely phenomenal. Like it's almost like you guys were meant to collaborate together. It kind of feels like because like what she brings to your songs is stuff that's kind of always been there, but kind of elevates it in a way. I don't know exactly how to explain it, like, but it
Sure.
just sounds great.
There's always been more room for harmony, and she's brilliant at harmony. And then like her harmonies on Bittersweet Symphony sound to me like Angel Olsen. I mean, and her singing on this song St. Lou that I had written for another friend, like she just took it and made it her own. She's just got this like kind of quiet power that, I feel like my voice just like is like a bulldozer and you just throw it at a song, whereas she's kind of this um a little more sophisticated and fills in the spaces way better than I could even imagine.
I always like to occasionally give my guests unsolicited advice, and
Okay.
here's mine for you. You guys should do a split 7 inch with you doing Wild Peppermint and her doing Snow Day.
Well, hopefully, I mean that's cool. We're going to collaborate on Wild Peppermint. And hopefully we're gonna sing songs from the EP, obviously live. It's all a matter of seeing how it works when we rehearse and everything. And the trouble is the winter, like we had a rehearsal and a whole shoot planned and stuff, and that last storm destroyed that plan. And there's only so much time, so it's just kind of like we're going to kind of figure this out in real time. But I would love to do that. I don't want to ask for too much. So
Sure.
like I feel greedy sometimes. Like let's do, I love plans though, so I'm gonna keep that plan in my pocket.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. So the EP, you said that you ended up sending like hundreds of songs. That kind of how did you settle on just these five? Like, what was the?
It was kind of we both chose, but she chose this song Halloween 2 that I hadn't thought of in a while and I didn't see um as viable and she loved it. So and then that really kind of opened that like brought me back to our older songs, which is cool because I sometimes, I'm like, oh, I can do better. So I just keep moving forward and I don't look back. And I it's cool to have someone make these connections for you. Like your suggestion is cool, and like everything that she brought to the recording of the stuff was really cool. It was kind of like I had to take a minute and absorb what she was saying rather than just say something back quickly, which is which is what I usually do.
Yeah. And you also mentioned Bittersweet Symphony. How did you come around to choosing that as a song to cover?
I mean, if there's probably my Jawn of all time is that song. I mean, the video is crazy for it. Richard Ashcroft is nuts. I don't know how he was allowed to be like, he just seems like a jerk, but he's brilliant. And there's just something about this song. It's just, he's just real in a lot of ways and it's just, to me, hits me right in the core. Everything about it. Um, it always has. I mean, I feel a little self-conscious covering a song like that because you don't want to make it worse. You're like you're messing with your dreams. It makes me a little self-conscious, but I love what she added to it, and I love that she like I brought it up, and she was like, "I love this idea," and then we're sitting and playing it together, and it sounded great, so we just did it.
That's incredible, and you've got an amazing music video for it out with Nikki Glaser. How did reaching out to her to get the video done? How did that come
I
about?
I work with and for Nikki. I tour manager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she's a good friend, and I'll ask her to do crazy things, or if she's up for it, and sometimes she'll say yes. And so, she's pretty brilliant. It's kind of a dream gig if because I love her comedy and I love her as a friend. So, I mean, as long as I don't screw up, everything's cool.
It's awesome, like the concept of the video for those who haven't seen it is walking from the green room to the stage for the duration of the song, and like it adds. I don't know if this is something that everybody kind of experiences, but like there is a bit of melancholy in that walk every
Oh,
when
sure.
and like I feel like it perfectly kind of captures that kind of just that like it's kind of like walking the green mile almost at times, like walking to your death.
I mean, she's never that upset about it. She's a total pro, but um, I know that it's for me. I'm so excited sometimes, but then you're just, and then you're terrified, and then you wonder whether. I mean, my walks aren't usually that long. I'm not playing huge theaters, um, but when we've opened for people and when we've had that kind of walk, it's yeah, a lot of stuff goes through your mind unless you're just keeping in the now, which is that is I don't want to sound like a guru or a anything, but this year is about staying in the now. It always was, but this year I'm like, I better stay in the now or else.
That's so crazy. I like it. So 2023, I had this whole thing where I was like, 2023 is 2020 me. I'm doing it, right? So like I put
Oh,
all these plans together and I exceeded every single thing I ever thought I was going to do last year, professionally and personally. I got married last year.
oh,
Um,
congrats. Me
oh,
too.
congrats to you as well. And so then 2024 came around, and like I decided that this year I just wanted to be like you said, like in the now, and like I'm not trying to plan anything. I'm just like, let me see what the world throws at me, and I'm excited to adapt and attack all of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Uh, there is some, unfortunately, like about releases and about setting things up, some pre-planning and getting out of the now. But for the most part, like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this tour. I'm gonna just take it as it comes and then just move on to the next one and next thing. And I don't know. I'm hoping it's
Yeah,
working now,
that's
right now.
awesome. So tour starts in Pittsburgh, right?
It does. Yeah.
And the what are you touring full band or?
This is two guitars and cello. And then Alexa and I will join each other for a few songs with the two other people, I think. Every detail hasn't been figured out, but yeah, a full band would kind of smash over the some of the stuff we're trying to do, and like vocally, I think it would make it difficult.
Yeah, so tour starts in Pittsburgh and then ends here in Philadelphia at Johnny Brenda's. You've played Johnny Brenda's countless times before. Just a brilliant room. I just saw Tim and Strand of Oaks there the last month, and he debuted his new album, and it's really really incredible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. He's from Philly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So the are you planning music videos for the rest of the songs? Because you got three videos right now, so you might as well. I'm a completist. You might as well.
We're working on one. It kind of got screwed up by that storm, so we had to last minute. Like Alexa was coming, she couldn't make it. We were going to an island with a lighthouse. We couldn't get out there, so we kind of had to do this. Well, what are we doing? And so it was this last minute, like as if we were, yeah. So we just threw everything we could at the wall, and we're working on to see what will come out of it. So it's just kind of like, does this make sense? It's basically, yeah, but it's for side eye rolls.
Oh,
The,
excellent! That's my favorite song in the EP. So I'm glad to
yeah,
hear that.
mine too. If I can pick between children, yes.
It's tough. It is tough. So here's another question. You mentioned giving Alexa hundreds of songs after the floodgates open and all. You are incredibly prolific. Have you ever kind of taken a break?
I just like writing songs. Sometimes I don't love recording them, but I'm trying to just kind of not think about it anymore. And I'm going to start recording myself soon to kind of get to the heart of it better. Um, I think I'm taking a tangent, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
The tangent is that like I think sometimes we uh, I love I love recording and I love making records, but I think sometimes you work things so much you kind of lose a little bit of that snap to it. So the reason why Side Eye Rolls, why I love that song, is that's a first take, live take in the studio singing live with a band. And I had no idea that we were going to use that. Like I expected to come back to it and sing it later. And then it's just like, well, this doesn't sound bad. And it actually sounds good. It sounds like, and then I was like, oh, and then it kind of opened this whole new concept to me that um, we might be sterilizing what we're doing. Self-criticism, see?
Mm-hmm.
But trying to learn a lesson from it, from all this home recording. Songwriting, I don't love anything else more than that. Like, I just wrote a song right before I got on the podcast with you, and I love it. Like, I love it. Um, like, it has like something that I've never done. So it's just like, I mean, it's a minute long so far, but I'm like, okay, you know, and that's now the rest of the day is kind of perfect and I don't have to worry about anything. I mean, I'm not rich and, but I got that, you know.
I love it. Yeah, there's something really magical about that first time when you lock a song, like when it like finally starts clicking, and like I don't know if it's the same way for you, but like once I find like the heart of it, and then it all just like spews out, like at that moment there's nothing better than it. So when you say that made your day, like the rest of the day, like I completely relate to that.
Awesome. Yeah.
So the other thing that this week, it'll be in the past for everybody else who's listening to this, but you released the music video for Fairly 22 years later. How did that happen?
We just forgot to turn it in. I mean, I didn't like that was the thing. We didn't treat anything as if we didn't have any kind of concept of what we were doing at all. We played shows and recorded and drank a lot of beer and coffee. And that was being in a band. And so we did a video and we were kind of like, eh. And then I forgot about it. And my friend Jen, I wrote to her and I was like, remember that? Do we? And so they just sent it to me and I decided why not put it out there? You know, not a big deal, but weird uh to see that time and my old bandmates, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
wild too because of like it's not like you put away or forgot about a like a video that kind of like a concept driven thing or something like it feels like someone found old footage and edited it together instead of being something that was kind of created. Like it kind of is beautiful in the way that it's now released 20 years later.
Yeah, it does. It kind of seems like found footage. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it looks like, like this was just captured and and maybe that's why it didn't work at the time. Maybe it needed a little time to a long time to gestate or something. I don't know.
It
Um,
it's
but yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's fun. I don't think it was fun for me to look at then. It's fun for me to look at now. Or I don't sit and look at it for too long, but it's not like gut wrenching, It was gut
Yeah.
wrenching to shoot videos or to do photos back in the day. I was always like, what do I do with my hands? Like, do I do this? Or, what do I do? So, now I don't care as much, I think.
It's
Which is,
awesome.
yeah.
It's so cool. Which is also funny because I feel like your presence in the Imagine Everything video is just so joyous and strong. Like that there was a time when you didn't want to be in front of that camera. Kind of just doesn't translate at times. Like
The what we love doing in videos, what I love doing in videos is doing something kind of ridiculous that's also fun to do. So if the process is like fun, it doesn't feel like you're trying to do something, to pop a wheelie in front of anyone. It's just what you're doing. We're just having a good time. Um and that's really, it's just with everything, that's kind of how I want it to be. I mean, not everything is fun. When we were shooting the side eye rolls video, it's freezing out and we're trying to do these dingling things, but it's still kind of cool, you know.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I don't know if it was sent to you, but at this time you want to go through the jauntlet. These are my questionnaire that I ask everyone.
I
If
think I
you
can handle it. I mean, if I get if my brain stops working, just bear with me.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. It starts with the one hit wonders, and these are you just picking favorites. Is first one Billy Joel or Elton John? Who do you prefer?
I mean, it used to be Elton John, but now Billy Joel. Like weirdly, like there's like I, but I like both of them. They're not my top artists, but right now I'm going with Billy Joel.
Yeah, it's weird the phases that we go through life because some of these kind of like you said like my entire life I would have answered one way and then now later in life I'm like, oh wait a minute, like maybe this was a blind spot of mine.
Exactly, exactly.
Number two, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Joan Jett.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I just rewatched Light of Day with her and Michael J. Fox and the
Oh,
movie.
that's cool. I've never seen that. I've wanted to see that. It's
It
good.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I remembered it as like there's a bit of nostalgia in watching it, but they made a really interesting film. I'll just put it that way.
That's cool. I mean, she has just this kind of natural presence. I saw her doing an interview about, gosh, when she was younger, and she just has a realness to her that it just like really hit home for me. Even as kind of made up and glammed out a little bit, she just was a very real performer.
Yeah, and that's how she is in the movie. I don't want to say that she's like a phenomenal actress. She's not a terrible actress. But her realness comes through in the character, and it's necessary. So like it just makes it just such a believable character. You should check it out.
I will. I
It's
will.
there's I don't want to alert the authorities to piracy, but there may be a full copy on YouTube right now. I don't know. Number three, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
Aretha Franklin. Nothing against these other choices because Debbie Harry and Tina Turner are. Are you? Do you swear or do you prefer
Yeah,
people not?
no, yeah, you're good.
Both are fucking amazing. But like, I've never loved a man the way that I love you. Like, I think it's an album, or was one thing that I taped from someone's uh, album and had on a cassette, and just kind of um, would practice singing like Aretha Franklin very badly when I was alone, so much when I was younger, and I loved it. I loved it. It really got to me.
That's unbelievable. The well, I don't know if you follow WXPN just did a 885 greatest songs by women countdown, and number one was Aretha Franklin, Respect. And for the first time in maybe my entire life, I don't know. Like there's these songs that are just in the zeitgeist and that and you hear all the time and you know are like the greatest. But for the first time, I like just sat and listened to it on like really good speakers, and what just an incredible production and performance on that song. Like it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's also when she's playing piano, and there's this kind of cosmic connection between her and her piano playing. Um, it's heavy. Like that is soulful. That's uh, never will that be come from me, but anyone who, if there could be anyone else who does that, I will take it 100%.
Definitely, definitely. The next one, Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
I Stevie Nicks. Yeah, Stevie
Yeah,
Nicks.
yeah.
Yeah.
The big cliche one, the Beatles or the Stones?
You know, I cannot choose between this, and it's for two different reasons. I will not choose. The Beatles were everything about growing up, and I was always had this kind of anti-Rolling Stones thing. But the Rolling Stones are the sloppiest but best connected band of all time. I mean, talk about that's another like like whatever engine it is in their rhythm between um, Nikki actually took us to a Stones concert just a couple of years ago in St. Louis, which was, it's crazy. They're so old, but it was still amazing. Anya, my wife, was crying. Like it was intense. It was really great. So I will not choose on this one. I don't know if that's not allowed. I mean,
No,
if I
it's
get
a completely valid and respected. Yeah, no, like I feel like I talked to years ago. I talked to Questlove about this, but like Charlie Watts, I feel like was what tied that sloppiness together. Like he was just like a human metronome, and like just could keep that pocket no matter where anybody else kind of wanted to kind of slide with it.
they did a tribute to him that was short but so intense because he had died. Um, and and then the drummer, I can't remember his name, he wasn't great at the beginning of the set and slowly got better. Like whatever was happening, he was getting into, was figuring it out. And it was really cool to see that, to kind of, it's not, it's the songs are great, but it's not kind of locking in. And then it starts to lock in, and it was amazing. Like they're just like any other band. They're just a band, it's
Yeah.
crazy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely cool. The last one of the one hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
I have this rule: if Stairway to Heaven comes on in the car, or Hotel California, you can't turn it off. You have to endure it. I like those songs are fine, but Bohemian Rhapsody, though, kind of oversaturated. Both songs oversaturated. I really, that song is just kind of insane and magical.
Yeah. Yeah, I like every once in a while, kind of like what I was saying with the with Aretha and Respect. Every once in a while, it's a song that I like to just sit and listen to on headphones, and I don't understand how it exists. I really don't.
Freddie Mercury is insane. I mean, Brian May, like it's just, I mean, and then you can't. I love Led Zeppelin a lot too. So it's these are hard choices, you know.
Definitely. You know, it's funny you just mentioned Brian May. I just saw a clip that Guitar World posted. I don't know if it was new or old, but it's Brian May and Tommy Iommi talking about Tommy writing the riff to Paranoid. And so Tommy's like noodling on the riff, and Brian May is like, I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to join in. And I'm like, hope you don't mind. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's cool.
The next section is the top 10 countdown. And of course, in this, we use Jawn to be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be music, it can be anything you want it to be. And it starts with number one, the first Jawn. What were you first obsessed with when you were a kid?
This is a tough one because I was thinking about it, and uh, I don't want to sound sad, but I was a lonely kid. So, um, I gosh, what was like the first I found? It was a copy of Sergeant Pepper's, probably that like uh we found it in an attic from a place that my parents had rented, and I kind of uh held on to it and kept else from listening to it, and was obsessed with it and just thought it was crazy all the things that they would think of putting on a musical recording. So that's probably my first obsession.
Beautiful answer. I love it. Number two, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
I love this band Jockstrap. I they don't sound anything like their name. Um, uh, it's kind of like electronic music with almost mashed with classical music, um, and but weird, but not weird, like just then a beautiful song or something um, mixed in with it. And I want to see them live more than anything. I think that that would be magical. So that's my yeah.
That's awesome. I gotta look that up as soon as
Yeah,
we get out of
I
this.
I turned Pam onto that, and my listening is sometimes a little. I get focused on working on songs. I should be listening to more stuff. So she's always telling me great things to listen to, and I was just like, well, there's this one thing that really, really gets to me, and she loves it too. So
That's awesome. Yeah, through the podcast, I've clearly had to start listening to more music than I used to
yeah,
ever in my life. And 2023 was easily the most amount of music I've ever listened to ever, and a lot of it's really good. Like, there's a lot of really good music out right now, and it's really exciting to know like that people are creating good stuff.
yeah.
I did a top 30 albums of 2023 that originally was my top 10, and then I just couldn't stop. Like, I was just like, oh, but what about? And then it just snowballed. um, Number three, what was your first concert? What was the first live show you ever saw?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my dad put on a festival of the arts in northern New Hampshire that was cool. It had like Taj Mahal and the Preservation Jazz Hall Band, and then orchestras and ballets. It was this crazy thing. So I can't tell which was my first one, but the first one I went to with some dumb friends, in high school to see as a reunion show was a Squeeze show, and it was really cool.
That's awesome. I love it. Number four, what was the last concert you saw?
That's tough. I'm so bummed. I was supposed to see Caroline Rose this week, but we have to. Um, she's playing this little place in nearby solo, and small room, and I was so excited, but we have to work.
Oh
Uh,
no.
so that's a bummer. But I think it was Wilco, and I can't remember when, but it was like last year sometime.
Okay. That was my favorite show of last year. Was I got to they opened the Atlantis in DC attached to the 930. That's supposed to be like the original 930. It's like a 450 seat room, and I got to see Jeff solo acoustic there, and it was otherworldly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's just so much when you see a show, it's like, fuck, I forgot that song. It's so, it's like they have these kind of, you wouldn't call them hits, but I guess they're hits. And they hit. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Number five, what was your favorite concert? What was your favorite show you ever saw?
Jarvis Cocker, solo. His stage presence is kind of, and his body so crazy. And he drew eyes on his hands, and he came out with his hands covering his eyes with these eyes on his hands. It just kind of took me out of myself.
That's
There was one Patti Smith show that did kind of the same thing, and one Yola Tango show that did the same thing. Like what when I realize I'm at a show that's amazing. Oh, and a Kate LeBon show that was here, that was where I'll do something like this, and I'll be like, "What am I doing?" Like I'll be like, "Yes," and you're almost like you feel religious about it, and it's kind of cool, but so embarrassing to be almost like drooling or just kind of like in awe of what you're seeing. I love that.
Yeah, not my favorite concert of all time, but my favorite concert moment of all time, like I can pinpoint, was the very first time we were just talking about Wilco. The very first time I saw Wilco perform Impossible Germany live, and it
Right.
got to the crescendo of the Guitar Mini outro, and I was literally in tears. Like I was just like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life."
Anya and I were just talking about, like, I was like, sometimes I don't know if I love the crescendo, but I really do. But like, is like, because uh that song just gets to me every time. But we were just discussing the crescendo. Now I totally agree with you, but I like to kind of be like, what if it was different? What if it didn't do it there, and what if it was longer? Stupid, crazy, pointless
Well,
conjecture.
the only reason that I feel like it moves me is because there's a payoff. Like if it were just a crescendo with no payoff, like I think I might like revolt. But
So that's the thing I was talking about. I was like, is the payoff too positive? Does this story have a happy ending? And I was like, no, because they go back to the very first riff at the end. So I was like, oh, this makes total sense. But I love kind of pulling a song apart until it's just kind of you think about every little part. I mean, I'm probably overthinking
no,
it.
I love it. That's actually really interesting. He performed that solo acoustic, and it just like it's one of my favorite songs of all time, and it just didn't hit the same because I was just like, I mean, without Nels, why are we doing this? Why are we here? Like
That seems true. Yeah.
number six, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead.
It would be like I don't mean to get on a Britpop thing, but it probably that music really affected me a lot. So it would be Pulp or Blur. I, very moved by the music and by the kind of just the vernacular, the way of like lyrical vernacular, the way of kind of having so much depth. Like I still love listening to Pulp and Blur. Blur's record from last year. I mean, I'm going to use this for another answer, but was probably my top record for last year.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Number seven, name an unappreciated John, something you wish had more attention to it.
I mean, I would probably say Alexa Rose. She's, I don't mean to, you know, shout out what we're doing, but it's true. Uh, I think if people listen to her music, they'd be blown away.
I
You know,
100% will co-sign that. Like, like I wasn't, she wasn't even on my radar until the EP came through, and then I went back, and it was like this EP was like a double blessing because not only is this amazing, but it turned me on to somebody who is absolutely incredible.
for sure, for sure. Yeah.
Number eight, what's your favorite album?
I mean, that's hard. Like double nickels on the dime is the Minutemen was always like that was another one. Like it just showed me what you could do with music and how, they're considered punk, but it doesn't feel punk. I mean, that or Asia by Steely Dan. I'm a big Steely Dan fan. I mean, that's kind of it's not a secret, but I don't like to put that on people too much, because if someone's not into it, because if I'm driving and anything is bad, give me Asia and I'll get through it. But other people aren't always into that, and I don't want to bum anyone out.
I just mentioned this recently that I made the mistake one day of focusing too hard on Michael McDonald's background vocals in Peg, and now it's the only thing I hear.
Well, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
You can't and it's brilliant, and I love how they talk about when he's talking about like how close he had to sing to his own harmony, and he's like, it's impossible, and they just kept making me do it over and over again. And also, 3 years ago, saw Steely Dan at SPAC, another greatest and it was kind of like the makeup on stage and the way it was set up, it was like pretty simple. They had backup singers, a very tight horn section, guitar player, bass player, whatever, no Walter. But but it felt like Stop Making Sense or something. It was like everything, you could hear everything, and it was like this kind of, I shouldn't compare these two things because it's like, but it just was this kind of transformative journey through their music. And yeah, I loved it.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Much like Michael McDonald's background vocals, it's the same way with the one day that I hyper focused on Yoko's background vocals on Happy Xmas War is Over, and now I
Yeah.
don't even hear the children. There's no children. um, Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they put out.
I mean, there's so many, it's kind of like you have this uh, eternal faith. Probably Blur is one, like, but there's so many. I mean, I really like Faye Webster right now. Uh, sh like, there's something in her. It's just she just has such a sound, even just in her voice, but then in the way everything that she does kind of has just this slow groove. Um, it's very cool.
It's awesome. I love it. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Can be anything you want it to be.
That's impossible. This is an impossible question. Because, it could be something as simple as Tender by Blur or Bohemian Rhapsody, or, I can't answer this question. I almost have to I feel like I'd be betraying too many songs to choose one. But um, Deacon Blues, uh, the dog disagrees with me, but I mean, there's so many things to choose from, and there's so many things that hit you that you need and that you'll never let go of, and that's like you can't. This is a brutal question, but I like it still. But thank you.
I respect it. I respect it. So the EP Call and Response out on January 20th, and the tour starting on the 15th in Pittsburgh. Do you think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship? Do you think you guys will collaborate some more?
It's just timing, and all this stuff breaks down to weird. It's just logistics. Like if she has time and if we have time and if there is a snowstorm doesn't get in our way, maybe we'll do it. But I also think that, she's probably got an album to work on and we're working on stuff. So hopefully we'll work together again. But I don't want to I don't want to jinx it. I'm just open to anything, pretty much.
I love it. I love it. If these cool cats and kittens who listen to the show want to track down you, what's the best way to find any information about you?
I mean, just our very simple website. It's, just mattpompier.com. That's easy. I mean, all the social stuff, but my stuff is a little confusing because I've been a couple bands. So I don't know. Any search of the internet probably will get you there.
Yeah,
I'm not good at sending, like, I'm self-promotion. I'm the worst, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. This has been really cool.
well, thank you for not just for coming on the show and talking to me, but for just an incredible life's work of music. Like you just create absolutely beautiful sonic pieces, and I absolutely appreciate that and appreciate you coming on here.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely. And if you want to come to a show, let me know and we'll put you on the list.
My thanks again to Matt for joining me on the show today. His latest EP, Call and Response, recorded with Alexa Rose, is out now on all streaming services and is available on CD and can be purchased by visiting his website, www.mattpondpa.com. And you can find him on the socials at mattpondpa. His tour with Alexa kicks off this Thursday, February 15th in Pittsburgh, and concludes Saturday, February 24th here in Philly at Johnny Brenda's. Tickets are available through his website. Links to all of those, as always, are in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And guys, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout merit badge for citizenship of the world just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for the link tree with links to articles, merchandise, all of the previous episodes of this podcast, guest appearances on other pods, and more. And while you are there, be sure to sign up on our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight to your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter X at Yo That's My Jawn, and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out and touch some Jawn. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you will once again join me for the next. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be measured. You ain't being judged, you won't get a score. So what the fuck?
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production, written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Maggie Poulos, Dan Drago, Natalie Runkle, and the beautifully vibrant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com or hit us up on the socials at Yo That's My Jawn. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Tilt your head back and shout to the world, Yo, that's my Jawn.